Welcome back to the road to 2024, ladies and gentlemen. We now have polling, our first poll from the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial Democrat primary. Currently, Mark Herring leads with 49% of the vote. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax right behind him with 43% of the vote. State Senator Jennifer McClellan behind him with 5% of the vote. And Jennifer Carroll Foy with 3% of the vote. We also have polling out of the 2021 New York City mayoral Democrat primary, as we have former HUD Secretary Sean Donovan leading with 43% of the vote, General Lori Sutton with 22% of the vote, Dianne Morales with 13% of the vote, Attorney Aaron Foldenauer with 8% of the vote, Michael Dename right behind him with 4% of the vote. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney has announced that he will be running for governor of Virginia in 2021. He is the 5th Democrat to announce his campaign for the Democrat primary, and he's hoping to make a splash in the primary cycle, as he is a big name, in a big town. We now have our second round of polling from the Virginia Democrat primary. Mark Herring still leading, with Attorney General Mark Herring leading with 36% of the vote. Justin Fairfax not far behind with also polling at 36%. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney at 13%. State Senator Jennifer McClellan at 5%. And our state delegate Jennifer Carroll Foy at 2% of the vote. Entrepreneur Pete Snyder has announced that he will be running for governor of Virginia. He's the second Republican to announce so, the first one being State Senator Amanda Chase. He's the second Republican to announce that he will be running for governor. He had a failed attempt in 2013 running for lieutenant governor, but he's hoping to do better in the Virginia Republican primary this time around. Former Portsmouth Mayor Steve Marchant has announced a 2022 New Hampshire gubernatorial bid. This is probably one of the earliest campaign announcements for a midterm election that I've seen in a long time, but the former mayor has announced that he will be running for governor of New Hampshire in 2022. He's the first Democrat to throw his hat into the race. We can now make a call. The first New York City Democratic primary debate happens tomorrow, and 3 candidates have met the signature qualification. Former HUD Secretary Sean Donovan, General Lori Sutton, and Dianne Morales have all made the threshold. We have the voting on the issues voting results, as we have asked the attendees who they thought had won. When it came to the issue of the housing shortage, they have stated that they trusted Sean Donovan with the issue more just by the debate itself. He has won 42% of the vote. With the crime rate, Lori Sutton was favored with 42% of the vote. When it came to rising temperatures, Dianne Morales was favored with 61% of the vote. When it came to pollution, Dianne Morales also favored with 43%. When it came to the Black Lives Matter movements, Dianne Morales was also favored with 68%. When they came to the ask who they thought they had won, it was clear that Dianne Morales was favored with 46%. So we should see a huge bump up in the polls for Dianne Morales. We now have some post-debate polling ready for y'all. As we can see, former HUD Secretary Sean Donovan leading with 36%. Dianne Morales took a huge bump in the polls. She is now at 35%. Lori Sutton is now in a downward spiral. She's at 18%. Attorney Aaron Foldenauer and Michael Dename, who did not appear at the debate, are both declining in poll numbers, with Foldenauer at 6% and Dename at 2%. (2021) New York City mayoral candidate Michael Dename has announced the end of his 2021 campaign. with that not getting on the debate really did hurt his chances, and I guess he's seen that himself and has decided to drop out. (2021) New York City mayoral candidate Max Camplin, who was not even in the top 5 for our polling, has announced the end of his 2021 mayoral campaign. (2021) New York City mayoral candidate Jocelyn Taylor. This is the third candidate this week to drop out. She has announced the end of her 2021 campaign. She has dropped out. She was polling around 1% to less than 1%, and she has decided to drop out. Entrepreneur and former 2020 candidate Andrew Yang has announced his campaign for the 2021 New York City mayoral run. He teased this after he dropped out of the 2020 race and speculation started running rampant. He promises to bring bold ideas to the debate stage if he can make it, as the debate is in late February, early March. There is no doubt that he could make it, though. Let's just see how his polling turns out, as he was barely able to get above 3% in the 2020 run. We now have some more polling out of the 2021 New York City Democratic primary. Sean Donovan leading with 36%. Diane Morales is now on a downward spiral as well with 32%. Lori Sutton down again with 15%. Andrew Yang now at 10 has debuted on our top 5 with 10% of the vote, and Aaron Foldenauer dropping even further with 4% of the vote. State Minority Leader Rob Hogg has announced his intention to run in the 2022 Iowa gubernatorial bid. He's the first Democrat to do so. So far, it seems like he's the front runner, as he's the only candidate, as he has high hopes to win in the primary, to hopefully, and in the general, to hopefully unseat Governor Reynolds. Happy 1st of July, everyone. We now have Happy New Year, as we have some New Year polling. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax currently leading in the poll with 37%. Attorney General Mark Herring second with 36%. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney at 14%. State Senator Jennifer McClellan at 4%. And State Delegate Jennifer Carroll Foy at 3%. We have some polling out of the mayor race, the mayor Democrat primary. Sean Donovan at 34%. Diane Morales at 33%. Lori Sutton at 15%. Andrew Yang at 11%. And Aaron Foldenauer still at 4%. Former Congressman Denver Riggleman has announced his intention to run for governor in 2021. He's the third Republican to announce his campaign. He was overthrown in the Virginia 5th Republican convention to current Congressman Bob Good. A lot of people thought his politics day were over, but it looks like he's throwing his hat into the 2021 race, and he's cleared to be a front runner for the foreseeable future. Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams has announced his intention to run in the 2021 New York City mayoral race. He is he's going to be the 6th Democrat in the race, as we've had a few dropouts already. But currently there are now 6 Democrats in the race. Hopefully he can make it to the next debate so we can hear what he has to say. We now have some polling out of the 2021 Virginia Governor Republican primary. Denver Riggleman debuts with 52%. He's the clear frontrunner in this race. Pete Snyder's at 22%, and State Senator Amanda Chase is at 18%. Breaking news. State Delegate Jennifer Carroll Foy has ended her 2021 Virginia governor campaign, and citing low poll numbers, she did not see any path forward. She's chosen to endorse whoever wins the nomination. We now have some polling out of the 2021 New York City Democrat primary, as Aaron Foltenauer is no longer on our top 5, and Dianne Morales is our current frontrunner. She is at 33%, Sean Donovan is at 31%, Lori Sutton is at 13%, Andrew Yang is at 11%, and Eric Adams is at 10%. Congressman Bob Good has announced his 2021 Virginia gubernatorial bid. This is the man who unseated Denver Riggleman in his, well, I guess you could say in the primary, but Bob Good has announced his intention to run for 2021. A lot of fellow Republicans have said this man is America first and he wants to make Virginia a sanctuary for the Constitution. We have some more polling out of the 2021 Virginia Governor Republican primary. Bob Good is at 38%, our frontrunner currently. Denver Riggleman only 3 points behind with 35%. Pete Snyder is at 17%. And State Senator Amanda Chase is at 9% currently. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has announced his intention to run for re-election in 2021. Despite his low approval rating, he still sees a path forward for re-election, he says. Former Congressman Tom MacArthur has announced his intention to run in the 2021 New Jersey gubernatorial race. He is the second Republican to throw his hat into the race, along with Jack Ciattarelli, who was the nominee last time. Tom MacArthur has said that he despises what Phil Murphy has done to New Jersey and he pledges to fix the damages. City Council Speaker Corey Johnson has announced his intention to run in the 2021 New York City mayoral race. He's the 7th Democrat in the race currently. Could we see him in the top 5 soon? Who knows? Executive Counselor Andrew Volinsky attempts once again in the 2022 New Hampshire gubernatorial bid. He lost in the primary 2 years ago to House Leader Dan Phelps, but it looks like he could be a frontrunner in the 2022 race, though we'll just have to wait and find out. We have some New York City Democrat primary polling right now. Dianne Morales is currently leading with 32% of the vote. Sean Donovan trailing even further behind with 29% of the vote. Lori Sutton at 12% of the vote, as well as Andrew Yang. Eric Adams is at 8% of the vote. The first Virginia Republican debate happened last night, and we now have the results from on the issues from the attendees. When it comes to the issue of the coronavirus, it is clear that People Intra has favored Bob Good with the issue. When it comes to immigration, they have also favored Bob Good. When it comes to the issue of the legalization of marijuana, they have favored Pete Snyder. When it comes to the abortion laws, the Republicans have been trying to make for years, trying to make it illegal. Amanda Chase is favored. When it comes to the issue of the Black Lives Matter movement, it is clear that Amanda Chase is heavily favored. Now, when asked about who they thought had won this debate, it was clear that it was either Bob Good or Amanda Chase. As those two were to have seen a good performance at the debate, and they should see a bump in polling. State Congressman Chris Hall has announced his intention to run in the 2022 Iowa governor race. He is the second Democrat to do so. He states that Iowa needs a leader who is not afraid to buck up to the president. The first Virginia Democrat debate happened last night, and we now have the first New York City Democrat debate. Sorry, this is a giant typo right here. But as we can see, when it comes to the issue of the coronavirus... Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is the Virginia debate. I'm sorry. When it comes to the issue of the coronavirus, it is clear that Lieutenant Governor Fairfax is favored on the issue. When it comes to education, State Senator McClellan is favored. When it comes to environment, State Senator McClellan is heavily favored. When it comes to the state's economy, it's clear that Attorney General Mark Herring is favored. When it comes to the issue of Black Lives Matter movements, Justin Fairfax is favored. Now, when it was asked who they thought had won the debate, it was clear that the Lieutenant Governor was the clear favorite. He has won 29% of the favorability vote. Now, Mark Herring and Jennifer McClellan did not do so well, coming in last, respectively. We have some polling out of the Virginia Republican primary, as Bob Good is currently at 40%. He is our clear frontrunner. Denver Riggleman is at 32%. Amanda Chase is now at 13%. He's seeing a huge bump up in the polls. And Pete Snyder is at 11%. Newark Mayor Ross Baraka has announced his intention to primary Governor Phil Murphy, stating that Phil Murphy does not care for the job and we need a Democrat leader who will issue in a new progressive era into New Jersey. Former Newark Mayor and current New Jersey Senator Cory Booker has endorsed the mayor, as Cory Booker favors him over the current governor. The second New York City mayoral debate happened last night, and we now have the results from the On the Issues poll we issued. When it comes to the issue of education, Dianne Morales is favored. When it comes to the issue of mass transit, entrepreneur Andrew Yang is currently favored, heavily, might I add. When it comes to cost of living, Dianne Morales is currently favored. When it comes to the issue of jobs, it is clear that Andrew Yang is favored. When it comes to public safety, Lori Sutton is favored, although not by much. Now, when we asked who would win, who they thought had won this debate, it was clear that they thought Andrew Yang had won the debate, as he had a good night. Though the HUD Secretary Sean Donovan attacked him mercilessly throughout the debate, but Andrew Yang was seen to have a response to everything that voters could rely on. Former state Congressman Victor Mitchell has announced his intention to run in the 2022 Colorado governor race. He's the first Republican to do so. He wants to bring Colorado back into the 2004-2000 era of voting. We now have polling out of the 2021 New York City Democrat primary. Dianne Morales currently still the frontrunner at 33% of the vote. Sean Donovan at 29%. Andrew Yang is now in third in the polls at 14%, and Lori Sutton is at 11%. Eric Adams currently sitting at 9%, as he also had a good performance at the debate. He has also seen a bump up in the polls. Attorney Aaron Foldenauer has announced that he is suspending his 2021 mayoral campaign. He had missed the first two debates and does not see a path forward. He is dropping out of the race. General Lori Sutton has announced the end of her 2021 mayoral campaign. She has been seeing a significant downward spiral in polling ever since the first debate, as it is agreed that she is not that great on a debate stage, and that she is not good when it comes to talking, as voters do not seem to appeal all that well to her. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly has announced that he will be running for re-election in the 2022 Senate race. He had filed for it just today and has announced his intention that campaigning will start soon. Comedian Joe Piscopo has announced his intention to run in 2021 in the New Jersey gubernatorial bid. He is the third Republican to do so. The second Virginia Republican debate happened last night, and again we have the On the Issues polling results. When it comes to the issue of gun rights, Bob Good was favored heavily. The criminal justice reform. Surprisingly, voters thought Denver Riggleman was favored over Bob Good, as though there's not that much of an in-between. When it comes to the minimum wage, Denver Riggleman was favored for that. When it comes to online sports betting, the issue of that, Bob Good was narrowly favored over Pete Snyder. When it came to the issue of habitat loss, it was clear that Amanda Chase was favored. Now, when it was asked who they thought had won the debate, people had thought it was a close race between Bob Good and Denver Riggleman, but Bob Good had narrowly won this debate, though we should see a bump up in poll numbers for both Good and Riggleman. We now have some polling out of the 2021 Virginia Republican primary. Bob Good is at 39% in the polls so far. Denver Riggleman not far behind with 34%. Amanda Chase is at 14%. And Pete Snyder is at 10%. The second Virginia Democratic debate had happened last night. Now let's take a look at the On the Issues polling results. When it came to the issue of pollution, LeVar Stoney was favored. When it came to the issue of climate change, he was also favored. Jennifer McClellan was favored for that one. When it came to the issue of fire exclusion, it seemed that Jennifer McClellan was heavily favored. When it came to the issue of economic justice, Attorney General Mark Herring was favored. When it came to the issue of Social Security, Jennifer McClellan was favored. Now, when it was asked who had won this debate, it was a landslide victory for Jennifer McClellan. She won by 11 points in our polling, though she did have a great night of the debate. Let's see how far her polling will go up. We now have some polling out of the 2021 New Jersey gubernatorial Republican primary. Tom MacArthur is leading with 48%. He is the clear frontrunner. Joe Piscopo has 21%, and Jack Ciattarelli is at 10%. We have our post-debate polling for the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial primary. Justin Fairfax is at 37%, Mark Herring is at 36%, LeVar Stoney is at 15%, and Jennifer McClellan is at 8%. The third Virginia Republican debate happened last night, and our On the Issues polling results are in. When it came to the issues of agriculture, Denver Riggleman was the clear favorite. When it came to the issue of budgeting, Pete Snyder was the clear favorite. When it came to civil rights, Bob Good was favored. Education, Bob Good was favored. Environment, Bob Good was favored. Now, when it was asked who they thought had won the debate, it was clear that Denver Riggleman had won the debate, which was crucial if he wanted to win this primary. The third Virginia Democratic debate has happened last night, and the On the Issues polling results are in. When it came to the issue of healthcare, Mark Herring was favored. Veteran Affairs, Mark Herring was favored. The state's economy, Mark Herring was favored. Gun laws, once again, Mark Herring is favored. When it came to infrastructure, Jennifer McClellan was favored. Now, when it was asked who they thought had won this debate, a lot of people were expecting Mark Herring, and yes, Mark Herring has won this debate. It is him and Justin Fairfax went at it over and over, and he just kept punching at it and punching at it and punching at it, and he has clearly won this debate with good punchlines, good responses, and good answers. We now have some polling out of the debates, out of the Republican primary debate, as Bob Good and Denver Riggleman are tied atop of the mountain, with Bob Good narrowly leading with 37%, and Denver Riggleman also at 37%. Pete Snyder and Amanda Chase are both at 11%. Pete Snyder leading her by 0.3. We now have post-debate polling for the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial Democrat primary. Mark Herring now leading 37%, Justin Fairfax leading with 36%, LeVar Stoney with 15%, and Jennifer McClellan with 8%. Her polling has not changed despite her good performances in the debates. It is now the day for the Virginia primary for the governor races, and polls are now closing for the Virginia races. Both races are too close to call, but Bob Good is clearly leading with 41%. Denver Riggleman's at 33%, Pete Snyder's at 13%, and Amanda Chase is at 12%. Though this race could go either way right now, as only 1% of precincts are reporting for both races. And the Democrat race, Justin Fairfax is leading with 31%, LeVar Stoney is at 29%, Mark Herring is at 23%, and Jennifer McClellan is at 16%. It is now 8 o'clock and we have some more news for the precincts, as 12% of precincts are reporting. Bob Good is still leading in the Virginia race with 40%, Denver Riggleman is at 35%, Pete Snyder is at 12%, and Amanda Chase is at 10%. Out of the Democrat primary, Justin Fairfax is at 31%, Mark Herring now coming in second with 26%, as well as LeVar Stoney, but Mark Herring still leading by a narrow margin. Jennifer McClellan is still at 16%. Precincts are now reporting at 23%. 23% of all precincts are now reporting. Bob Good currently leading in the Republican primary with 38%. Denver Riggleman is polling at 37%. Pete Snyder is at 13%, and Amanda Chase, who has seceded the race to whoever the winner is at the end of the night, is at 11%. In the Democrat primary, Justin Fairfax is at 30%, Mark Herring is at 29%, LeVar Stoney is at 25%, and Jennifer McClellan now falling behind at 14%. These races could go either way, though betting odds are now showing that Herring has a significant chance of winning the Democrat primary, and Bob Good still has a significant lead in the Republican primary. 48% of precincts are now reporting. 48% of precincts are reporting. Denver Riggleman now leads in the Republican primary. He is at 38% of the vote. Bob Good is at 37%. Pete Snyder is at 13%. And Amanda Chase, again, who has already seceded the race, is at 10%. As well as the Democrat primary, we also have a new frontrunner. Mark Herring is currently at 30%, as well as Justin Fairfax, a very close race. LeVar Stoney is at 25%, and Jennifer McClellan is at 13%. 75% of precincts are now reporting, ladies and gentlemen. 75% of precincts are now reporting. Out of the Republican primary, Denver Riggleman narrowly leading with 38.5% of the vote, with Bob Good at 38%. Pete Snyder is at 13%, and Amanda Chase is at 9%. This is a very close race, ladies and gentlemen. However, we can make a call that Mark Herring has won the Democrat primary. He has won the Democratic nomination. He will go on to the general for the Virginia governor race in November. He has won 31% of the vote. Justin Fairfax winning 29%, LeVar Stoney winning 26%, and Jennifer McClellan winning 12%. 82% of precincts are now reporting, ladies and gentlemen, for the Republican primary, as we can now make a call that Denver Riggleman is going to be the winner in the Republican primary. He is at 39%, Bob Good is at 37%, Pete Snyder is at 13%, and Amanda Chase is at 9%. We now have the full results out of the March 3rd Virginia primary. Denver Riggleman and Mark Herring were both nominated in their party primaries last night, and they will both go on to 3 debates before the general in November. See you guys next time. If you have an idea for this series, tell me down in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.